Hey, hello, everyone. I am Jonathan Crow, Director of Community here at NinjaOne. Thank you very much for joining us for adding up the hours. Results from our MSP Partner Time Savings Survey. We're going to get into what we're covering here in just a second, but I want to thank our other lovely folks here on the screen for taking time and joining us. We've got Sherry Barnett. Sherry's our Senior Manager of Product Marketing. I should absolutely introduce more of our guests of honor first, I suppose. So with us, we have our own King of the North. We've got Andy Laren. He's CEO and founder of All Care IT Corp. And we also have Ben Ebert, our Director of Operations at 101 Digital. These are two Ninja partners who are taking time out of their days to talk with all of you all and share some tips and insights about how they're using Ninja to save time. So thank you guys both so much for joining us.
Our pleasure.
Yeah. And I'll give you guys both a chance to introduce yourselves and give a little background in just a second too. But Sherry, thanks so much. This is really your kind of brainchild, and I'm going to tee you up to talk about the survey that you put together. Before I do, hey, everybody in the chat, thank you so much for jumping in. Chris Thomas from Tennessee. I was born and raised in Johnson City, my friend. So good to see you. And we have our international audience. That's awesome. Jamaica. Wow, Kent. Very cool. Always awesome to see everyone joining in from all over the world. Thank you so much for taking time, everybody. As always, with these
North Carolina. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. There we go. As always with our webinars, we want to make sure that this is a useful use of time for you all. And so it's a great opportunity for us to talk with you, but we're not here just to blab at you. It's a chance for you to connect with each other. And we definitely want to be hearing from you around this topic. So as the title suggests, adding up the hours, this webinar is really all about saving time, right? And in the MSP world, specifically, we're talking about technician time. It's really the most valuable resource around. And from the very beginning, it's something that Ninja was really built around. Can we deliver a promise of helping people save time? Let's give them an RMM that's going to be easy to use, that's going to be that you don't have to babysit, that just works. And enter Sherry. She comes along, joins Ninja and says, that's a great promise. Let's see how we're actually delivering on that. And so Sherry put together a survey that I won't steal her thunder. I'll let her kind of walk through and give a little bit more background there. And got some numbers behind how much time people are saving. But when we were talking about putting a webinar together to share those numbers, we also wanted to go back to that mantra, right? Like, let's make sure everything we do is always sharing actionable things. We want people to walk away from this with some takeaways. Whether you're new to Ninja or whether you've been using it for a while, we want you to walk away with maybe something that's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's share some examples of how you guys have found like little hacks or techniques or tactics that you're using to really save yourselves time. So that's where Andy and Ben have graciously agreed to come in. They're going to be sharing throughout this webinar some examples of the things that they're doing with Ninja and with their own processes and procedures to really help themselves save a lot of time. And we want to hear from you all too. So thank you for entering in the chat. Just a couple little housekeeping things. Just make sure if you want to be engaged in the chat, which I highly encourage you to, that you make sure you're chatting to everyone. So, I mean, we're all in these Zoom webinars all the time at this point, but just in case, make sure you're chatting to everyone, not just us and the panelists. This is being recorded. So I think that sells it in terms of kind of housekeeping. The last thing I'll say is we are going to be giving away some prizes. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that. So stick around with us to the end to see who's going to walk away with that. And also, let's keep the conversation going. So encouraging everyone to share some tips and tactics there during this hour. But to keep that conversation going, to be sharing more, I'm going to drop a link to our Discord server, which many of you may either be a part of already, or you may not know that we had. So I'm going to drop a link in there. And I highly encourage everyone to drop in and check it out. We've got great folks who are also chatting at me and heckling me as we speak from our Discord server. And highly encourage you to join it out. It's got great people in there sharing lots of good tips. We've got scripts, requests, and shares there. A lot of good conversations happening. So with that, I will kick it over to Sherry. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the survey you've launched up?
Yeah, so let me fill you guys in. So I've only been at NinjaOne for about 3 months here, although I have a lot of experience in the MSP space for years and years and years. But so I heard as soon as I came on board, I heard how, first of all, I learned the product and thought, oh my God, this thing is wonderful. But I also heard so much from so many customers about how it saves them time and effort and yada, yada. And as Jonathan said, I was very curious, okay, but how much are we talking here? So we sent a survey to all of our MSP customers around the globe in late January and asked them 11 questions. And you'll see all those questions as we go through what all the responses were through the course of this webinar. And it was really surprising, the answers and the data that was accrued here in a good way. Because what we found out is that, in fact, NinjaOne does save a lot of time. But, the big question is, that's great, but how? So that's why we have Andy and Ben here. And it's so great to have these guys here. And so what we're going to go through is the actual results of the survey and the statistics that resulted from that. And in general, they kind of fell into 4 categories, roughly. And speaking to the different characteristics of NinjaOne that basically help save time. So one is sort of the ease of use. That's a pie, by the way, easy as pie. And so that was my icon choice.
I love it.
But yeah. And just the fact that the product itself is easy to use, easy to learn. The second one is around automation and scripting and what you can do with that. The third is around having just better visibility into all of your endpoints and what's going on. And the third is about being able to expand the capacity of the technicians on staff and how that happens. And so without further ado, the way that we're going to structure this webinar, just to make it easy, is I'll go through the results of the actual survey and what we discovered and the data that we gathered. And then we're going to turn it over to Ben and Andy and say, okay, in this area, what do you guys do? What are some pro tips from you on how we can, on how folks, can make this happen for themselves? So let's dive in. So the very first question that we asked is, how many days does it take you to get operational with NinjaOne RMM? We have a lot of customer stories on our website that talk about how quickly some people were able to onboard. And normally, I say normally, but for traditional RMMs, typically it takes probably 3 months to really get onboarded. What we found with our MSPs is that 92% of them were fully on board in under a month, which is pretty incredible. 58% in under 1 week, and 39%, over a third, were up and running in under 3 days. And I think that's great. We always, I'll just throw this in. Our onboarding team is incredible, and they will hold your hand the whole way. And so that's probably a testament to, the fact that we love to offer as much help as possible along the way. Second stat, how many hours does it take to onboard a new technician with NinjaOne RMM? What we found is that most people said 89% can do it in under 6 hours, and 2/3 in under 3 hours, which is hopefully a testament to how easy the product, how intuitive it is and easy to learn. And third stat, before we turn this over to Ben and Andy, I'm giving myself away. Hold on. Come on. Oh, I guess that was the only stat we have. Okay, great. So now let's turn it over to our esteemed guests.
Yeah, and maybe just to kick you guys off, I didn't give you a chance to give a little bit more background. Andy, why don't we start with yourself, sir?
Yeah.
You want to talk about yourself and in All Care?
Sure. So we run an MSP in Kingston, Ontario. So we're between Toronto and Ottawa up in Canada. So as you were saying, the Great White North. Um, I've been in business since 1996. So tried a lot of different software in all of that time. Originally, we were more of a VAR and sold hardware. And then in the 2000s, really got into a lot of the servicing. Tried tons of different RMMs out there. Started off with LPI back in the day, the level platforms. I think that was the first one that I ran into, but basically been around the block. Used GFI before they became Enable RMM. Used Autotasks before it became Datto. Used N-Central. Used Synchro. Used LabTech before it became Automate. So been around the block and really loving Ninja.
Nice. Thank you so much for that. Ben, how about yourself?
Hey, good morning. Ben Ebert with 101 Digital. We're an MSP out of Naperville, just west of Chicagoland area. And we're actually a newer company by name, but based off of the strong efforts from Arthur Dodd and Blue Collar Computing. So our core team is still together. And we've moved forward into 101 Digital. And that said, we've moved away from a number of PSAs and other RMM tools, kind of like Andy was stating. Was working with Ninja for many years, tried to go into a all-in-one package through another PSA Synchro, and regretted that decision as they weren't ready for everything that a best-in-class service like RMM, Ninja RMM could provide. So we came back, and in quick turnaround time, we were part of that, under 3 days to get our team fully back into the fold with Ninja One. It was really easy and great. So we certainly appreciated that.
That's awesome. Thank you for that background. And as part of your role as director of ops, you're mentioning, you've got technicians reporting to you, and I know you guys have a new employee just started yesterday. What are some of the things that you're doing to help folks get up and running faster? Maybe that involves Ninja. Maybe there's some other things you could add too.
We're largely a virtual office, right? So most of our technicians are working remotely. However, when we have that opportunity to bring on a new teammate, we meet up in person, and that gives us that real opportunity to do the show and do component of training. And getting through the dashboard with Ninja One is a critical component of that. It has all of our organizations listed. It brings them up to speed on the scale and complexity or simplicity of any particular client. Shows them a real concise output.
And awesome. Andy, how about yourself? Anything as you're thinking about getting your folks, onboarded, trained up using Ninja? Anything that you found that's kind of helped with that?
Yeah, for sure. So we're a bit of an oddity in the MSP world now. We are mainly all together on site at an office. We do have a few people remote as well. But our onboarding, we've got a process for onboarding people. We've got a project that's set for them. In our documentation, we've got a lot of different SOPs. As was mentioned, Ninja is very intuitive. So a number of the techs that we get have generally either used another RMM in the past, and then when we show them Ninja, they're pretty astounded at the look and feel, the intuitiveness of it. Others that haven't used, perhaps they haven't had an RMM, they've only been using, Intune or using a ticketing system if they're coming out of school. It's fairly intuitive for them to see it, but we've got an onboarding process where we walk them through it, and easily within a day, they're up and running and they know how most of the things work inside of it. Every week we have a tech meeting And the techs all talk about some of the new things that they've found that made their job easier. And one of the things that we do is we utilize roles within Ninja. So we limit things to certain techs. So as they gain more and more knowledge, then they're granted more and more access to change things, such as, you know, a parent policy, where if you change a parent policy and you don't know what you're doing, it has some real ricocheting effects. So, you know, depending on how somebody is set up, we extend more and more those roles. We give them more.
Gotcha. Yeah, maybe before we move on, Sherry, I'll just toss this one out there. And this goes for everyone out here listening too. Love to hear in the chat. Are there any things that were mistakes that you had to learn the hard way in terms of trying to get people up and running faster? Andy, kind of what you're mentioning there really is one maybe example. But anything else that is kind of like a oh yeah, be careful we don't do this type of thing when you're getting your techs up and running. And I'm putting you on the spot there, so if you don't have an example, that's okay. But just interested in the chat too. I thought I'd give you guys a chance to chime in.
Yeah, I'm watching the chat to see if anybody's got any that that we can really learn from. But you know, that one with the parent policy, that one really had some. You know, it wasn't something super damaging, but it took over some things that we didn't want it to, and so you have to have, you know, more of a 5,000-foot view when editing those.
Yeah, I would say with us, we have a few hybrid customers that want patching on very particular days or done in a particular manner. So while there is a very robust default, you know, workstation and server patch policy that we can push out to the vast majority of machines, some of them have a very intentional frequency that they have to follow. So it's not necessarily a fault of the technician in working with Ninja as a tool. It's really that awareness that we have to be particularly careful about to explain and educate any new technician on a particular client's needs. It's not super overt as to, you know, which policy that they're going to be following unless you're within that organization and looking at it. But that again is not necessarily a gotcha, you know, on Ninja One.
Yeah, for sure. Chris has a good point going back to kind of what you were saying, Andy, with having rules for critical servers and just kind of putting boundaries around, you know, making sure that people can't setting them up for success, I guess, versus making it easy to make a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, everything is logged inside of there. So if somebody, you know, goes to view files or you know, various different things, you know, those are things that are all logged, but sometimes you don't need to grant access to those things to certain techs. And so again, limiting your liability and limiting some of the restrictions there.
Awesome. Well, Sherry, I'll kick it back over to you. I know we want to cover keep it moving because there's some more good stuff here.
Yeah, we have all kinds of good stuff here. So let's move on to the second area, which is automation. And we just asked people in general, how many hours per month do you save through automation? And some of these questions were verbatim. So we got, you know, I got everything from 30% to 5 hours to, you know, stuff like that. So it was fun sort of wading through the data and trying to come up with conclusions. But overall, 99% of the folks who responded said, yes, we absolutely save time every month because of automation, which is a great thing. And 48% said they save 5+ hours. And it was actually per week, not per month, that they saved those 5+ hours, because most people answered in terms of weeks. But that's where we came down to. And then I think 1 or 2 more stats on this. How many fewer hours per week does your team spend patching? So patching obviously can be a real time sink. So 62% said they saved 1 to 10 hours through, you know, the ease of patching for Ninja One, and 32% said they saved 10 or more hours per week, which is a lot of time. I mean, what's nice is that time then goes back to being able to be used for something else. So that's great. And we have one more stat. How many fewer hours does it take you to onboard a new client? 84% said it took up to 8 hours less time to onboard a new client. And again, you know, that's real savings. That's a whole day. So we were thrilled to see that. And that leads us to our next question for our pros, which is, what are some of the ways you use automation to save time? So I'm going to throw it to Andy.
Sure. This is an area that I'm super passionate about. I love doing anything automated. So if, you know, something that we're going to do manually a couple of times, we write a script for it. And so we've got a ton of different automations that we put into place, and Ninja is fantastic at utilizing some of these. So some of the ones that we use are within policies. So we've got parent policies that will do things to all machines. So for instance, we use Screen Connect as one of our remote tools. And we have a script that we've written that takes the name of the organization inside of Ninja and uses that, grabs the build from our Screen Connect server, injects that in there, and then installs it down to the machine. And what we do is we utilize a condition for that. So it checks to see if our version of Screen Connect is on there. If it is, then it doesn't bother doing it. If it isn't, then it removes it. So even if we remove Screen Connect, it'll reinstall it within 5 minutes. But we use it for all kinds of other things, making sure BitLocker is on. So again, we use a condition inside of Ninja to check if BitLocker is on. And if it's not, then it runs the script to turn it on, enable it in the BIOS. We use it for self-healing for a lot of other software. So tools like Huntress and ThreatLocker. We use the conditions that check to see if that software exists. If it does not, then it pushes it down. Or if it's damaged, it does it in a self-healing way where it will reinstall the software. And we do it for removing software as well. So we've got a lot of conditions in there that will check for other antiviruses or other RMMs or any sort of unapproved software. So when we onboard a new client, all of the tools that they had on there from the previous provider, it will go through and start removing all of those. And if it can't remove it in a scripted way, then it'll alert us and create a ticket. So we really utilize these things a lot. I could go on and on. In tasks, we utilize it as well. So we use search and we use search groups. We create search groups that look for certain things. So for instance, we'll look for Dell machines that are on, and then we'll use a task that runs Dell Command Update on only Dell machines, because of course you don't want to run that on a Lenovo or an HP machine. So we'll utilize the search groups in order to do certain things as well. Anyway, I could go on and on. I'm super passionate about automation, but I'll let Benjamin talk about his.
Yeah, those are all great points. We use a number of those tactics too through Ninja, especially with onboarding new clients and onboarding machines, or if we have a machine refresh. Ninja is the primary tool to help push out our other tool sets, be it a remote control software or antivirus. It's nice to be able to have Ninja control something like antivirus for one universal installer, and then we can just drop in the parameters for the new client, whoever that is, and even have that run on a scheduled task to ensure that any that either fail, repeat when they need to, or if a new device comes in, we can set up a scheduled Ninja discovery jobs so that they're automatically acquired into the proper organization and have all of the tool sets running in a real efficient amount of time. Allows us to continue focusing on the other issues that a client may have, or seek out opportunities to help improve their network infrastructure and their overall tech experience. The alerting piece as well is great. It helps us understand kind of where the trends are for a number of machines as they age, or just as they get more software added onto them, where those opportunities to stay ahead of that curve could be. It's without the automation piece, I mean, it's tough for us to quantify how many hours we would be spending on it. We know it's dramatically cut.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention really quickly, Tani had a really good question, which was 84% compared to what? And I realized I failed to mention at the very beginning that all of these questions are asked in relation to previous RMMs. So for every customer, it was how much time are you saving as opposed to what you did before. So I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that, but that's sort of the benchmark, is what life was before NinjaOne and now. So I hope that helps. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and just before we move on, I'll just make another shameless plug for the Discord and also the dojo, because folks here in the chat are sharing a lot of great things, and this is such a temporal space we find ourselves in here in Zoom. If you're looking for some more places where people are sharing tips and scripts and lessons learned and all that, that's a little bit more permanent, that you can search through and have more time with, the dojo and the Discord server are both great places for that. So I'll continue dropping links.
Yeah, I would fully agree. The community is fantastic at sharing a lot of these things. So there's a number of people asking, where did you get a script like that? So some of these scripts we've written ourselves, but a lot of them we just look at the community every week, and then we take some of those scripts. Sometimes we'll change it a little bit, but the scripting and the community is fantastic.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah, and Dana with Cyberdrain, our good friend Kelvin. Yeah, great. Lots of links. I'm just gonna keep posting, but Sherry, take it away. We got more to
All
cover.
right. Okay, you keep posting there, Jonathan.
All right.
All right, moving on. So let's talk about better visibility. So this one kind of there are a couple stats in here that maybe don't relate quite as much, but they do sort of go back to visibility. How many fewer tickets per month do you now receive from your clients than before you had NinjaOne? And 79% say they receive fewer tickets overall, which is good, because hopefully what you're seeing problems before you get a ticket that tells you about a problem that's happening. And that's the whole idea. And then the next one in this is, how much has your mean time to resolution decreased? And 69% of our customers reported a decrease in just how it takes to resolve something. And that hopefully is a testament to how much information you have on each device. So, how you can, before you actually, start a remote session or something like that, you can really see what's going on with the device. So let's go back to our wonderful guest. How does better visibility to all your client devices help you save time?
That's great.
Andy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
You go ahead, Benjamin.
Your way.
All right. For us, it's kind of twofold. At the technician level, while you're at the dashboard, you're obviously seeing anything that may pop up as red, needing a lot of attention, or yellow, with the warning status. So you can quickly identify if one or many machines from any given organization are experiencing an issue, and then help address that. You can run scripts across multiple devices and orgs, to also help increase that efficiency as well. It's not unusual for one small event to start to trickle into a major event, and this will help you save a lot of time in identifying it before it can get out of hand.
Yeah, absolutely. We utilize search groups a lot. So the search tool at the side, you can create all kinds of different search groups and then save those search groups. And then you can run certain things. You can run tasks against those search groups. So for instance, one of the ones that we do is we look for old builds of Windows 10. And so if it's an old build from 2 years ago, they need the security updates, but if for whatever reason it's tripping up on those security updates, we'll look for the old builds, and we have that pipe to a group, and then then we run tasks against those groups. And so we've got a script that will look for that's a much more aggressive version of fixing the auto update for Windows 10. And so then it'll bring it up to the new version of Windows 10. So again, that visibility, those things were difficult to do in the past. But if you can create those search groups, you're able to run those sorts of things. We utilize custom fields a lot now. So we're able to install software by utilizing those custom fields. And we also then run tickets based on custom fields. So depending on what happens in a custom field, we'll search for things and then it'll generate a ticket. And so we don't have to constantly go looking for those things. So it saves a ton of time and that visibility is there.
That is super cool.
Yeah, and for anyone who's not familiar, the links again too. But I mean, they're Sherry and her team, including Pete, who I'm sure a lot of you folks have seen in other webinars, do a great job of doing monthly webinars, diving deeper into some of this functionality. So I know there was some automation focused ones recently, diving into custom fields. We also have a partner office hours that happens every month too, where people can ask questions and share some latest and greatest things. Also I shared a link into Reboot Camp, a series where we kind of dive into things, and there's a video all about custom fields with that too. So yeah, thank you, Andy, for bringing that up, and definitely help for anyone who's interested or struggling at all or wanting to learn more. Lots of stuff available.
Yeah, again, community is fantastic.
Awesome.
Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So expanding your capacity is a really big deal, because as you guys know, the more endpoints your text can handle, the more capacity you have. And so one of the last questions I asked was, how many additional endpoints can each of your technicians manage now than before Ninja One? And this is the one that kind of blew my socks off, because 62% of the folks who responded could increase the number of endpoints their techs manage by over 100 devices, which is a lot. So, and it was kind of thrilling, because that's, will really help you grow. If you can take on more with the same staff, take on more customers, then, that's how you grow. So that then takes us to our next question, which is, what are some of the things you've done to increase technician capacity?
Well, one of the things that we've done is, again, utilizing some newer features inside of Ninja, where we use the documentation, and then we have scripts that pull from documentation. So a lot of the software that we have to load on particular clients, or just software that we're pushing out everywhere, some of them require licenses. And so what we do is we have one single script, we put that script into the policy, we have that script pull from the documentation, and so then it injects the license for that software. So again, saves a ton of time for our techs, and it makes sure that it's 100% compliant, because then all of the machines are getting it. It's not somebody forgetting to do it. So utilizing that, the scripting and the automation really does help with capacity. On the alerting side of things, we don't have to go looking for things. We have things self-heal as much as we can. And then if it doesn't, then it brings it to our attention. We utilize, the software updates inside of Ninja that are built in, but then we also use other third-party tools like Chocolatey to grab things that are outside of the 150 plus software packages. Even simple things like services that stop and you get a ticket because, the print spooler has stopped. But it's not just the print spooler, it's, SQL and all kinds of other services. So we have one script that runs every 8 hours, and it checks for services that are supposed to be running all the time, that are set to auto, but for whatever reason they're stopped, and then it'll start those back up again. So those are things that would, they're 5-minute tickets, but if you've got enough of those, that really can affect your capacity. So all of these things, these self-healing things, are fantastic.
Definitely leveraging the community and the dojo for, learning the full robust capacity of Ninja is going to be that one-stop shop for a technician to really get better. The more that we learn to use the software and make it work for us, the more efficient everybody becomes. That leads to being able to take on and manage more devices without increasing personnel as well. Just makes everybody happier.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, going off this point, increasing capacity, being able to manage more, taking away those kind of like smaller routine, those 5-minute things. I guess the other benefit that you would imagine is being able to work on more interesting stuff, right? Or the more complex things. Have either of you guys found that this is actually helping you kind of level up some technicians or getting them onto some different paths that's not just focused on all the the kind of more mundane things?
For sure. There's a remote piece that's within Ninja. You can give end users remote access to their in-office machine when they're away, and that kind of eliminates a couple points of failure between client VPN and remote desktop protocol. So, and it's flexible, right? You've demonstrated a capacity for being agile and figuring out how to help that end user be productive in a shorter amount of time. They're happier. Made your life easier because, again, you don't have to address these recurring tickets of points of failure, whether it's Windows, client VPN based or whatever other specialty client VPN software might be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's irritating to a lot of techs if they're having to do those little 5-minute tickets, starting up a service or resetting a password. So anything that we can do that's self-healing, that automation, not only helps us from a capacity perspective, but none of the techs want to do those types of tickets. They want to do the more complex, fun tickets, and so we get them doing some of those automations instead. And I have to give some kudos to Luke Whitelock on his GitLab page. He put up it's not in the community just yet, but he put up a script for pulling from Volmon, and it's awesome to pull out all of the vulnerabilities that are found on a machine. So any old version of Zoom or whatever it happens to be, that's a big one because that's something that we've been looking at for a long, long time, and he just saves us a ton of time there. So awesome.
Oh man, I'm glad you gave Luke a shout out. And as Craig points out, yeah, he really is the best. I mean, I can't say enough about the hires that have happened really in the past year with all these great PMs. So for those who don't know, Luke been super active in the MSP community for a long time. Super active in MSP Geek, which Craig also mentioned. Has a great blog, which I dropped the link to Andy. I believe this is the post.
Wow, you found that fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Fun.
Yeah. Yeah, great blog to check out. And Luke we're can't be more happy to have Luke as a member of the team. He's actually managing. He's a product manager here at Ninja now. And he's not the only one. There's a lot of other great folks too. Gavin Stone, also from MSP Geek. Steven, I'm gonna have to mention everybody now because I'll get in trouble otherwise. We got Greg Smith, we got Dan Myers, we got Scott Stanley now, a bunch of really great PM team. And I'm sorry if I failed.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about that. Luke's wife was busy on a Saturday, like she was going off and doing something. So what does he do for fun? He wrote that script.
And it's awesome.
He said it was something that bugged him, so he wrote a script.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the other quick little tips that we've done to save our techs a ton of time was, in the chance that we have to do an offboard, that's always been a real pain to remove all of the different software that we push onto people's machines. So what we did is we actually created an offboard policy. So we've got a policy for workstations and a policy for servers, and then it's just got everything to reverse everything that we've done. So it puts Windows updates back to Windows updates instead of Ninja doing it. It uninstalls all of the software from the machine that we push onto the machine. Then it pops up a screen saying you've been offboarded as of this point. And then the final thing that it does is it removes Ninja itself from the machine. So that has saved a ton of time. So in the times that we've, a company's been sold and we've got to offboard them, we just take all of their machines and we move them to that policy and we're done. And we can see that the machines all go offline within 10 or 15 minutes, and saves our techs a ton of time when that happens.
Wow.
I imagine too, just having like the removing potential for error there too.
Yeah.
Like going through a checklist and doing all these things manually, there's always going to be that. So, and especially when you're trying to remove yourself liability wise and all that other stuff too, I'm sure that that's a good kind of peace of mind knowing that there's a more automated way to do it.
Yeah. So again, that was something that it was taking our team time to do. And so putting the policy together took, a couple of hours to train it properly and put in everything that we need to. But then that time comes back over and over again anytime that we have to do it.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you, in a lot of other RMMs, shops will typically have the one, right? The one expert who kind of like has really knows how everything works. And is if anything were to happen to them, it could be a major issue. Do you feel like that's the same thing with you with Ninja? Like, do you have like one person who's really got all the historical knowledge, and if that person leaves, it's going to be a big problem?
I think that Ninja's at least easy enough to figure out for a number of technicians to be that subject matter expert. We do have, at least on our staff, techs that are more comfortable in creating custom scripts to be able to then upload, but everybody is capable of running those and setting up, a task or some kind of role for these to actually fire off and execute. In fact, even those that are not comfortable with creating group policies in a domain environment can utilize Ninja, much more effectively. Especially for rolling out Ninja itself through the discovery itself.
Yeah,
so
the intuitiveness is fantastic. So, there are some that are better at it than others and understand it more. That's going to happen with any tool, but everybody just gets it. When you go into it and you see all the colors that are there, the colors are the natural colors that 4-year-olds understand what red, green, and blue, or what red, yellow, and green mean. And so it's very intuitive that way.
My 4-year-old would insist that they all should be pink, but that's a different discussion. Valentino, I just want to address, because Valentino, you brought this up a couple of different times with Chat GPT, and it's not something that's in the product at all right now. I know that there's been some others that do have it involved. And I mean, as with everything with Ninja, I would say it's fair to say, we're taking a bit of a measured approach to it. Obviously there's a lot of potential, but everything involving pricing models, involving how fast things are developing, we just want to make sure that we're doing things consciously and for a reason, not just a knee-jerk reaction, just to have it, not just a gimmicky thing. We want to make sure it's for the right reasons. It's actually delivering on saving time, doing some other things. And with the scripting, I'm just curious with you guys. I mean, the other question was I guess beyond just incorporated in Ninja or other tools, are you using it yourself? I mean, I think that from what I've seen, it can be great, but you still need to know what you're doing. It's a dangerous tool if you don't know how to double check it, really. What it's producing is incredible in a lot of ways, but also there's definitely been loads of examples with errors and things where if you're not quite knowledgeable, you may not catch them. That's what I've seen.
Our PMs have been playing around with it a lot because there's been so much noise about how it can be used to create scripts, and they sort of feel like there was a whole long thread that just continues and continues about this, and it's all about testing. It's like you can't just write a script and expect that you drop it and it will work. So I think, like you were saying, Jonathan, it's going to be it'll be a while before you can absolutely trust that something that is written by a bot is safe to put into your environment.
Nathan's calling out what happens when it decides to not petcha or like, howl you. I can't let you do that. Anyway,
and any posted code, you've got to be able to sanity check it and make sure that it's good.
Exactly.
I mean, I've never seen any damaging code put up on the community sites, but somebody could put something up there. But there have been pieces of code that have been put up there that just don't work, and then somebody will correct it down below. So just like ChatGPT, you've got to do a sanity check. So and if you don't know what the code is doing, don't run it on your system.
Yep.
Well
yeah.
said.
Good comments coming into that regard. You've got to sanity check it big time. There's too much at stake. Okay. Should we move on? A couple more goodies coming.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the last question that we asked, and this was a free field verbatim question, was, and I've got everything in the way and I can't see my question, but basically it was what one feature, I asked what one feature contributes most to your efficiency. And first of all, nobody answered with just one feature, which didn't surprise me, I guess. And so what I did is I took all the answers and put them onto, categorize them. And this was the result. And it's probably really difficult for you guys to see these little tiny things at the bottom. So I'll just go through the first 5 because we've basically already talked about all of these. So scripting and automation was the number one thing that respondents felt most contributed to their efficiency. The second thing was usability. And then what I call general product love, which was just so many people saying, I love that it's so easy to use. I love that they're blah, blah, blah. So there was a lot about just the integrations that we do and some of the other things and just how easy it is to use. The third was around patching, which makes perfect sense. The fourth was specifically about remote access integrations. So TeamViewer, Splashtop, RDP, and just the quality of those integrations and how quick they are. And then we get into alerts and monitoring, software installation and updates, which was just everything in the kitchen sink. And then, plenty of other things. What surprised me is that it seemed like there were very few features that weren't mentioned. So that's kind of cool because that means there's something there that everybody is using and valuing, and that's important. So just thought I'd throw that in since that was one of our main questions. And that leads us to our very last question, which is when you're looking to make efficiency improvements, what other features? You guys have given a ton of examples. So there's probably, maybe there are some left in the back of your head, but what other features or NinjaOne resources have been helpful? And you guys have talked about a lot of those, but is there anything that you want to add?
I mean, it was brought up, the remote and the integrations piece, but I mean, that really helps us at all levels, kind of the management level, when we're onboarding, creating new organizations. It starts in Ninja because it'll integrate to our Halo PSA and to our documenting software Hoodoo. So those integrations are critical for our systems. It helps keep us on, keep us away from a double entry issue on a lot of situations, and it keeps everything reporting the same. We're not getting conflicting information because it is stemming from one resource. So that's great. It's reliable for us in that regard.
Yeah. A lot of what I said before are efficiencies that we have utilized. But we can't come up with all of these things on our own. So again, it's all about the community. And I really appreciate Ninja putting out things like this, because when we listen to these things, we always get ideas from them, and then we start implementing them, and it saves us time. So anything that you can get from the community that others are giving away and helpful ideas is always positive.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's been participating in building the community for years now in the dojo and now in Discord and other places too. I mean, I'm always in awe of how much everybody's just going above and beyond to really contribute and share things. So yeah, hats off to everybody. It's really great to see. I'm going to share one more link, and it's to our events and webinars kind of upcoming schedule. And you'll see a couple of future ones coming, but I think another one to call it is the partner office hours, which again happens monthly, which you should be getting emails about. If you haven't blocked out like my annoying emails by now. And you can also go to this page and see which ones are coming up to you. But that's another place where we're sharing, just it's kind of more of an informal thing. Sometimes there'll be a new feature that we dive deeper into, but it's a lot of like open Q&A stuff too.
I also want to put in a little plug for MSP GeekCon, which is coming up next month in Orlando. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to be there, and a bunch of our PMs will be there, and we're all really excited about that. So if any of you are planning on attending, can't wait to meet you. And so that should be fun.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on that a little bit and just say this is the folks at MSP Geek are just so great for a lot of reasons. And what they've done with putting together this agenda, I promise I'm not just shilling for this. I'm going to be there too. So I do have some self-interest in wanting to get a lot of people to come, and so I can meet everybody. But I just really appreciate the way they've approached the agenda, where it's set to be for admins to really say, like, here is our good paths for growth in your career. So getting from level 1 to level 2, level 3 and beyond. And I really like what they've done with the agenda. So just wanted to call it out. I'm not just saying that because we're involved and we're going to be there. I think I see a lot of these things, a lot of these conferences, and I think they've done a really good job with it. Cool. So, there's a couple of questions here, and well, Sherry, what else we got left? We got about 8 minutes. I know we got Q&A. Oh, we got prizes too. We should probably make sure we got those prizes.
Woohoo! Is it time for that?
It is. So this is where Christine comes in from sunny Austin.
There she is.
Hey, Christine.
Hey, not so sunny today, unfortunately, but yeah, no complaints though. So I'm here for the fun and exciting stuff. So we're giving away 2 t-shirts and then 1 Nintendo Switch. That's okay. So the 2 winners of the t-shirts are Ben Ropella and Christopher Dennis. Congratulations to you both. And then the big prize winner, drum roll please, goes to John Bauer. Congratulations, everyone. And be on the lookout for an email from us, and we'll get those out to you.
Wow, congrats, everybody. I got to say, when you started off with John, I thought I got a little excited, even though I knew that probably wouldn't look good. Oh man, congrats. That's awesome. I
want one of those t-shirts. Those are cool.
I know, right? How do we
Nothing
get
like code on a t-shirt.
Well, definitely one thing that we love to do, we'll be giving out more prizes for everybody who didn't win. Still appreciate everybody joining and everything, and definitely going to have more chances to win stuff, either through attending events or other things too. Okay, so yeah, I guess we do have a few minutes left, and I guess let's make this use of this time, right? I mean, any other questions or things that you wanted to share? And we got Andy and Ben here who are at your beck and call. Take advantage of it if there's any questions you have for them. Also, Sherry too is very intimate now with the product and everything. So yeah, any questions, now is the time to ask. And while we do that, I mean, okay, well, we got one from Eden Experience about Veeam monitoring integrations, like monitoring backup jobs. I mean, there's no Veeam integration at the moment. Anything else there you wanted to talk about, Sherry?
About Veeam? No.
Yeah.
No, we're still, we have our own data protection / backup solution. So for now, we're just making that better and better and better and better and better and doing the best we can. Is there, let's see.
Oh, there's lots of them coming in now. This is great.
Where do you add custom fields? Ooh, that's a really good question. You guys want to talk about custom fields and how I know you mentioned it a little bit, Andy, earlier, Ben, do you guys use custom fields in any particularly clever and awesome way?
We do use custom fields to create like a local admin account for us that recycles a password every so often.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We use a ton of custom fields. Where you find it is under administration and then under devices. There's role custom fields or there's global custom fields. So you can use either of those. We've got about 40 different custom fields in there, depending on a whole bunch of different things. Some of them are notes that our people put in just on a single machine. Others are scripts that are running.
Yeah, I think the other major thing that we use custom fields for to report on things that aren't always reportable, like laptop battery health. We've got a lot of clients that are experiencing batteries that are about to die because they're just plugged in all the time and it's not necessarily healthy for it. So once it gets to a certain threshold, it'll report to us and we can start to give them a heads up, figure out if it's under warranty or just needs to be replaced before it becomes a problem.
By the way, that's being added as a standard condition with our next release. So
great.
Yeah, battery health. So yay, finally.
Yeah, so until things are added in as built into Ninja, there's a ton of scripts that we run. Battery state is one of them. BitLocker keys, so we back up the BitLocker keys. And we do it for all drives that are on a machine, and we then harvest those and put them into a field. That we check the disk status. I'm just looking at our custom role fields here right now. The last time that the OS was patched, so then if for some reason it's more than a month, then it gets a little bit more aggressive in how it does it. Yanks out the local users. Our Ninja install date is another one that we got from the community. What their power plans are, even things like when Print Nightmare was an issue, the script that we ran to fix that, we then wanted to know which machines had it and which ones didn't. So we actually piped that out to a custom field so that if we wanted to undo it in the future, we knew which machines to undo it to. So, anything that you do to a machine, you can push it to a custom field and set it that way. We pull all of the services. So then if we see a service that's in there that shouldn't be there, we can do something about it. Now, Ninja does see all of those services, but we want to know a snapshot in time. The vulnerability thing that Luke did is fantastic because then you can run conditions against those vulnerabilities. So Zoom was the big one that we saw immediately, a whole bunch of problems with Zoom. And so then as soon as we'd look inside there and we'd say, if the vulnerability belongs to Zoom, run this script that actually downloads and installs the newest version of Zoom so that no longer is a problem. Windows licenses to make sure that they're compliant. Just a ton of stuff. Actually, one of the ones that we do that's a really interesting one is for IP geolocation. So we can see a snapshot in time of where their machine is showing up. So if we wanted to see where machines are at any given time, we could then look at that field and see how many are in a particular country at a time. And we also run another one that gauges how the speed test of a machine. So that runs every few weeks. Oh. It does a speed test of what their network is, and then then it calculates it based on what it was last time. And if it drops more than 20%, we want to know.
Wow, that's super clever. I like that one. I'm going to use that as an example in my marketing. That's cool. Nice.
Well, this is great, everybody. Yeah, I mean, obviously. Nathan wants to be friends with you, Andy. Don't feel pressure to answer that live. Yeah, no, this is great. Ben and Andy, thank you so much for taking time out of your days to do this. And thank you everybody who joined in. Great webinar, great discussion here in the chat. Lots of questions. We will respond with a link to the recording and everything. Also, there's a lot of good questions. We'll come through the chat, and if there's stuff we didn't get to, we'll do our best to get in some answers in that follow-up email too. yeah, and also we'll include links to all those resources we shared. So keep an eye out for that email. Sherry, anything else that I'm missing here?
No, that'll do it. Andy, Ben, thank you so much. So great. Really appreciate your help. Okay, everybody.